Welcome to the Accenture Innovation Center in Essen. In this video, we would like to showcase Aveva Engage as an example of how integrated engineering can work in big projects or later when you run a plant during normal operations for maintenance, inspections, turnarounds, and so on. The solution here has a demo environment here with a small chemical plant. And I have a big touch screen here that I can use. And when I click any object here, I can see additional documentation. I have, for example, here the spec sheets, which could be coming from SAP. Or I have additional documentation here, for example, a location drawing that is associated to that equipment that I just clicked on. The interesting part is that anything in this, what you see, is an object. It is not just a drawing. I can click anything here, and then I have all the metadata to it, can jump into it, and so on. So this is just the tipping of the iceberg. So what you see here is a viewer. It's used mostly in, for example, in meeting preparations, so during planning for the day, what activities have to be done today. And it is just the top side, the top view side of a large number of applications that you would have below that are used for by the different disciplines to edit or design the plant here in that digital twin that we have. And in order to introduce something like this, we are usually asking our clients to change 3 ways of working. The first change in the way they're working is everybody uses the same data set in the background. So the piping guys, the electrical, mechanical engineers, all the departments that are working on designing a plant or modifying it, they all work in the same data model. They don't have to use always the same tools. They will have specialized tools for piping, for example. However, the entire backend behind it is using the same data model. And this comes to the second part, which sounds very easy. Every device, every equipment, every asset has the same name in all systems. Like in this case, this drum F8011 is called this way here in the display, but it should ideally also be used everywhere else. In your asset management system, your maintenance management system, for example, in SAP plant maintenance, or in your engineering tool like here in Aveva, or in your OSIsoft PI system as an example for a data historian, it always should have the same name, so you keep it synchronized. And this is a tough one. It sounds so easy, but if you don't do this, you are not able to link information from different sources here. As I said, this on the left side here could be coming from SAP plant maintenance, and then basically the system here for the visualization just asks SAP, tell me the spec sheets for the drum F8011. And also, I can store all the documents that I have in my document management system, and I basically just ask the document management system, please give me all the documents related to the drum F8011. So, sounds very easy, and I think common sense, but implementing this, especially if you have a brownfield plant where you have been working with the equipment or the assets have been over decades sometimes, and the namings have changed, you probably have quite an inconsistency in the naming across the different systems. And the last and third one that we are asking our clients to change in the way they are working is please use the same set of integrated tools along the entire life cycle of the plant. When you're building a new plant, they usually now do this with such an integrated system. Could be Aveva, could be Hexagon, could be Siemens, could be Dassault, or whatever. There's a number of different solutions on the market. And so they are very often already using this during the project. So probably during the first 3 years. But what happens after the plant was built and commissioned? Very often this data is still, these days, simply exported as a PDF and handed over to the operator, and then basically say, good luck, please go ahead, and whenever you do a change, you have to take this PDF, digitize it, basically redraw it in another engineering system to do the changes and then update it. So our recommendation here is, okay, swallow the bad pill that you have to pay a lot for such systems here, like Aveva, compared to simple AutoCAD systems. But we think it's worth it, because consider that you're probably doing a turnaround every 5, 7 or more years. Imagine if each time you do this, you are redrawing all the technical specifications and the drawings, and then exporting them again. This costs you a lot of money to do that. So we think that it's worthwhile investing the money of keeping a software like this and the entire data model, and also investing the additional effort required to keep such a documentation Azure, that it's basically really a digital twin. Because I would never want to hear something like this if you are in a planning meeting and you're going in there and say, okay, Joe, you have to today work on that drum here. For example, and okay, you need a ladder probably to get up here. And John says to me, okay, but that drawing is outdated. This is not there anymore. This looks different. This should always reflect what's happening there to be a digital twin that you can use it for planning, investigations, issue resolving, and don't have to continuously invest in checking, is this documentation still up to date? I'm not saying that this has to be updated in real time immediately, but let's say with a short period or delay, that you probably do that in a service center that updates this documentation in the central documentation system. If you do that, you can use the software, and that's what I like, for example, about Aveva, is that you can use it also for your safety assessments. So, for example, we had a problem recently with the equipment from the vendor ABC. So I can now visualize directly in the 3D model where the equipment of that vendor is installed. This is not life-changing, I have to admit. It's also okay to have an export probably from SAP with an Excel sheet to go through the same list, but this is of course much more visual. And if I basically get it for free as part of that integrated system, that's a fantastic thing. In projects, I can also check out, for example, what are my commissioning systems and what's the installation status of my equipment. Which equipment has been installed, which one has been ordered, which one is currently under delivery. All these elements can be here implemented. And it's basically, again, just a status update to the equipment, for example, in SAP, and I would then visualize it directly here in that tool based on the linkage that I have with the metadata that has the same naming for the equipment, for example. For the data model behind it, we often recommend something like CFIHOS. That's also something we're using here in our Essen Innovation Center. You can see here an example with look into an Excel sheet that has the data. It defines the so-called functional location with the site, the plant, and in the end the tag that is the individual equipment or the sensor that is in that plant. And as a starting point for implementing this, you have to agree on a common set of functional location definitions and the spec sheets that you are using for defining the equipment. So attributes like, okay, this equipment has this length, width, height, whatever. It's in an ATEX relevant zone, whatever. There are hundreds of different specifications and attributes that you probably want to add. All of this can be then later imported or will be into that data backend, and then, of course, being amended during the project or during the life cycle of the equipment, which is often then 30 years or more, that you add more and more things based on the rules that you have defined, and that these rules are making sure that you have the same namings and the same rules for all the attributes and its related values for all the equipments, and that you have a consistency across all sites, all the plants, and across all the systems. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you are interested to learn more, we welcome you to the Essen Innovation Center of Accenture in the Zeche Zollverein in Essen in Germany. The description with the contact details can be found below.